Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another fun Friday with the Do It Now show. Because why you want to do it now? Because doing it late ain't so great. I'm Dr. Christopher Vogelmann. With me, as always,
I'm John
is
Paduchak.
Dr. John Paduchak, who we call RV John.
RV John.
I'll call you Doctor because we usually have Dr. Kayvon K here.
I know.
It's okay when Kayvon K is here. Where is he?
Could be a doctor. Osmosis.
You could be a doctor. You could be a doctor of RVs. You could diagnose and prescribe. Whoop, and he disappeared. Yes, indeed. John Paduchak, with his fussy Wi-Fi connection, is gone. We lost him a couple of times today in other live streams, but John is famous for having super high-speed internet, and yet he cuts out periodically. It's the saga of internet in the Granite State of New Hampshire. And so, John Paduchak is joining us again. So the internet, I told them about the sad state of internet in the Granite State.
I heard.
The Granite State. So you don't want to take it for granted.
It's not that sad. I'm not quite sure what's going on, but
I think you're cutting out periodically.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm wired in no less.
You're wired in. Well, I'm a little bit wired because I had a lot of coffee today. So
well, that'll do it to you.
That will do it to you. So we're talking today about resilience and how developing a greater sense or ability or strength of resilience can improve not just your survival in business, but bring you bigger profits. And John and I have both had numerous obstacles in our online life as well as our offline life. And I think we can both speak with a degree of wisdom of the necessity for developing resilience in order to showcase your brilliance.
Most people have no idea.
I have no idea. Yeah, I know you've had a lot of different challenges there. I think everything from health to wealth to this to that. Man, it does show that you've got a little instability in your internet connection. So that may be part of what's going on. Yeah. It's flashing to me that you are... not that you are a flasher. Oh, no, I see it. I was supposed to double click to reorder things. I don't know why.
It's weird because it's showing me like 5 bars.
Five bars?
Or 6 bars.
Are these bars?
Maybe I just need a bar.
Are they bars? Yeah, I was going to say, are they bars in Boston or are they bars in New Hampshire, where the liquor is cheaper and everybody drives from Boston to New Hampshire?
It's all on the highway.
It's all on the highway. Hey, so, and speaking of highways and all, it's interesting because when you're in an entrepreneurial venture, and I think in particular when you're in the online world, we often find ourselves jumping from, well, not often, but some of us are famous for going from one object to the next with that so-called shiny object syndrome. What's happening with your sound there?
I just moved my microphone.
Resilience, your brilliance. It's thumping. Sorry. No more thumping?
No more.
And no whistling today, by the way. John is famous for whistling on our Zoom calls, and I get a little irritated. So
I only do that when I'm hanging out with you personally.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's good. So you don't whistle while you work. Anyway, so when it comes to resilience, I think it brings to mind the whole concept of persistence, and if you develop a resistance to persistence, you tend to fly from one opportunity to the next, never really settling in on a strategy that can manage your business. And you were in the insurance industry, so I'm sure you understand things about, financial collapse and people being resilient enough and coming back from bankruptcies or 401ks that are not A-OK, that type of thing.
Yeah, it's intriguing to watch what's going on now with everything happening in the world.
Intriguing is a word that you can use.
It is a word that I can use because it kind of covers things both ways.
Yeah. Well, what was the Chinese thing, which it was Chinese or something else? May you live in interesting times.
Or as my friend Tom Hopkins used to say, it's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
Things are
exactly. Well, and so when you're going to think about it, when it comes to things along the lines of resilience, it really is, it has a lot to do with our ability to adapt to stress and to what may be unfortunate circumstances, obstacles, adversity, things like that. And I mean, it could be family problems. Perhaps you've got some issues with your relationship, maybe you have problems with your children and all, and that can stress you out. I mean, there could be issues, health problems, which you and I have both had different health challenges over the years. It could be
Sure.
financial stressors, workplace stressors. Um, I mean, and it's not so much that you have to be able to adapt to them with a great deal of ease, although dis-ease, you can take yourself over into a position of being ease and going with the
Mhm.
flow, so to speak. But it's not really a rare ability. I mean, I think the average person has a degree of resilience. Otherwise, you would have left the planet a long time ago.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
So, um, and it's the type of thing where I think you can develop your resilience muscle. A lot of it has to do with our belief systems, the thought patterns that we've accepted, and those thoughts that we continue to repeat over and over and over and over and over again until we instill them as a belief inside of ourselves.
Well,
And
the other
yeah,
thing I was going to say, kind of along the line of what you were talking about, is
hmm
that's why it's so important for us who are a little more resilient to be able to give people that gift of belief.
yeah, because the gift of belief can produce tremendous relief for a lot of folks who've given
Yeah.
up hope.
Right. Or they realize that, geez, if John and Dr. V can do it,
Yeah.
my gosh,
We
I
used
can
to
do
say
that.
even if a caveman can do it, as opposed to if a caveman can do it.
Uh-huh.
So easy that a Dr. V can do it. But I think, and also it's, people think of resilience as sort of a personality trait, but it really isn't. It's the
No.
state of mind that we develop over time
Yeah.
with respect to our beliefs. And the question is, are we going to install new beliefs when the old outworn ones no longer serve us? And ultimately, I think, you and I have been talking about this. Everything that we sell or do or work towards is based upon the result we want to produce.
Definitely. I mean, you have to be results oriented. Otherwise, you just go nowhere.
Yeah, and I think, and
You're flailing about.
yeah, and I mean, prevent the flailing. I think you just need to have certain of good self concept. You need to have a good sense of self worth,
Mhm.
and at least some degree of confidence in your abilities and your strengths, and in at least, if not in your ability, at least in the possibility, confidence that based on past performance, you've got the ability to produce results of some sort, and hopefully they're positive instead of disastrous.
Hopefully.
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 Anyway, but I think resilience, I guess, to a certain extent, is probably based on our degree to be able to communicate with other people. Because I would think that when you were in the insurance industry, you must have had a lot of communications with your clients in order to guide them into the right types of investments.
Yeah, and as you can imagine, with finance, there's always a lot of panic
Yeah, the
because
panic,
the markets are always changing and things are happening, and
right?
oh my gosh, it's like the sky's falling every other day.
hmm
And you know, it's I think resilience is a good topic to talk about now because what are we seeing? We're
Well,
seeing
yeah. My dad used to always say, he had a little paraphrase of the old phrase. He would say, "Change is inevitable. Suffering is optional." Most people do misery,
yeah,
but I think suffering is optional in terms of what you're looking at. Um, and I think if you have a degree of resilience, and if you develop it, I think we wind up. What would I say? We're able to sort of manage our strong emotions and
yes.
maybe have a little bit of impulse control as opposed to wanting immediate gratification for everything.
Well, and we're all trying to make our way through times that are unprecedented.
Right.
Like this is stuff that nobody's really ever seen before.
You get a war plus a
Like,
pandemic
we
plus
got a
plus a bit.
pandemic. We got this
Although
is
World War One was very much along these lines
right.
because there's pandemic in the wake. The so-called Spanish flu or the post World War
Sure.
Two. They did say the Spanish flu actually allegedly started what was in Kansas. It turns out that was where the
Like,
infection originated. Kind of crazy.
I mean, we
Um,
all hear that history has a tendency to repeat itself.
yeah, at least maybe for 100, 120 years or whatever, we have something going on.
Exactly.
Some of this, or at least we have these 50-year cycles also. And so if there's unprecedented change, the question is, are we going to adapt or not? And so, my thing was adapt or die. You see that,
Mm.
throughout throughout different types of species. If they're going to adapt, it's great. But if you can't ride the waves, you're going to be crushed by waves.
Yes, you're going to be definitely tossed onto them. The other thing too that I often say to folks as we're chatting about, how do you deal with what's going on? Because being an entrepreneur, especially, is not easy.
No.
And I think the most important thing is to just be level-headed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Or
you got to have and you have to be able to make realistic plans. Your forecasts, the plans that you're going to do to execute your business idea, and then have the capability to take those steps to be able to follow through,
mm-hmm.
as opposed to just wishful thinking. I think some of the criticisms that I've had in the past, and they were not well received, but probably spot on, was that I was at one point treating my business as if it was a hobby,
Sure.
as opposed to being serious about making strong plans and a plan of action, and being more action oriented and less perfectionistic about my planning, to get just the right logo and just the right type of, because we were on a call a little bit earlier. We were talking about how some people want to get everything just right,
Yep.
having the
Everybody's
right
got to know
colors,
everything
the
first.
right this, the right that, and they won't take any action.
Got to
Whereas
know
the action,
everything before I do anything.
yeah, and I want to do everything before I do anything, and that will just paralyze you, and you wind up, it's like was it McConaughey with a failure to launch? Yeah, he
Yes.
never got out of the
Yeah, the movie,
house.
right? Failure to learn.
It's not taking any action, and so, and if you do have a degree of resilience, there's a certain amount of positivity that you can kind of spread to others in your immediate family, in your business, and your friendships, and others, and so it creates, I think, you develop this ability to actually to give to others and to be supported by others, so that there's some degree of empathy. I think and
Yeah.
resilience comes about, I think, because that it's sort of like Scarlett O'Hara, that tomorrow is another day.
Yeah, one of my favorite sayings is life is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, because Sprint was bought by T-Mobile. No, okay, sorry. Anyway,
I guess I set up for that one, didn't I?
we're so focused on getting good internet connections and other things like that. I mean, it's I think that just is top of the mind awareness for me.
Yeah.
But
Well,
so we think about resilience too in terms of coping. How can we cope with
mm,
things that are, when the proverbial excrement hits the oscillating blades? What do you do when things go south? How can you think north? Not that there's anything wrong with you folks in the South,
no, nothing
but
wrong.
when things just don't go your way, how do you still have a nice day, or at least a tolerable day, so that people say, well, I'm having a bad day. And I've thought about this a lot. One of the characteristics of resilience, I think, was instilled by my father, which was, there's no such thing as really a bad day. You may have some particularly awful hours in the day, but the
Yeah.
question is, and some days really are bad, but for the most part, having a bad day is kind of a misnomer, because oh God, that was horrible from 10 to 11. I'll turn around and I'll say, okay, how is 11 to 12 looking?
Yep.
And there have to be some good hours in the so-called bad day in order for you to get something done. Maybe if it's at least to feed yourself when you're feeling physically ill, or to get a few hours of sleep when you've had insomnia.
Yeah, because if
Um,
that were the case, we'd all be paralyzed.
yeah, be paralyzed and pushing up daisies at this point.
Exactly.
So, but so what are some examples of resilience that you've had? I mean, I had a bankruptcy back in my practice days, and then I bounced back from it. I think the bankruptcy was in the '90s or so, but then I bounced back from it and became stronger than ever before. And I think what that taught me, that particular lesson of resilience, was even though when I've already mentioned the excrement hitting the oscillating blades happened,
Mm.
that I was able to pull it together and be able to come back stronger. And I think
Yeah.
and had it not meant for that, I probably would have just packed it all up and got a job as a barista at Starbucks. Not that there's anything wrong with
No,
baristas,
nothing wrong with that. At least
nothing wrong with that. you know
continue at Starbucks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah.
But that's like the kind of thing too, or resilience. Like I've had bilateral shoulder surgeries as a health issue. Do you come
Right.
back from that? Of course you come back from that. I'm back at the gym now for the first time in 10 years, and I could be, sloughing off and just
Yeah.
saying, okay, give me more donuts or give me
I'm
more Brigham's
finally
ice cream.
I'm finally starting to get back to the gym. I think the biggest one for me
Mhm.
was having a long-term illness, for
Hmm.
five,
Yeah.
6 year period.
Yeah. That's a
Um,
long time. Is he gone again? I'm looking at a
it was a
different.
long time,
Now
and I wasn't really
you
looking
cut
forward.
out and you came back again. So
And now I came back again. So I'll
see,
keep
because that's
going
what
from where I
resilience
left off.
does. Resilience allows you to come back again.
Yeah, and I think the thing that's so insidious about that, now that I've recovered from that,
Hmm.
I realized that the 5 or 6 years wasn't really 5 or 6 years. It was really decades.
Mm.
And I think that's the one thing that's probably the most shocking to me is that, gosh, if things had been different, it could be in a completely different place because for decades people weren't able to figure out what was wrong with me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that I think that's the kind of stuff that shocks you back into reality quickly. You know.
Well, I mean, yeah, if you, it's, as we said before, it could be health issues, it could be relationship issues, it could be any
Yeah,
number of different things to bounce back. I mean, I went through divorce, so I bounced back from divorce. And unless
sure.
there's some level of
Financial issues.
financial, yeah, unless you have some degree of resilience built into you, you will give up.
Mm,
And giving up is not an option. I mean, people say, "Well, there is no plan B." Sometimes there is a plan B, but the
I
plan
think
B
there's
is to
always
start
a
something
plan B.
new, to give you a new plan A, basically, when
Yeah,
you're talking about resilience. I mean,
yeah.
and the resilient person that I think about resilient people, they tend to be they're more productive, they're more actively
Hmm.
engaged with people.
Much
They're willing to
more.
converse. They're willing to commit to things, and more than anything else, they're willing to willing to. But they naturally, the resilient person tends to be somewhat positive,
Hmm.
or they would have just done themselves in a long time ago.
Oh yeah, you would. Yeah.
But and resilience too. I mean, one of the benefits, because resilience has this positive, beneficial aspect to you, you're going to find that a person who is resilient will have less stress. They may be healthier overall. Less illness, let's say.
Hmm.
Um, in the world of HR, they may, with employees, if you hire employees who've been trained in resilience, there'll be less absenteeism for employees, for example.
Yeah.
Um,
You'll be more level-headed. You'll have
yeah,
less
yeah.
issues. There'll be less arguments. There'll be,
They'll be less disruptive. That's for
yeah,
sure.
totally less disruptive.
And did you have employees when you had your office? For your financial stuff?
I didn't, but
Oh, okay,
I was in a broker relationship, so I mean
got it.
I did have people. They weren't my employees, but they did work for me.
So like
So
co-workers, if you will, or
of sorts
employees, contract workers. I don't know how you classify these
that
people.
I still oversaw.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
in the brokerage structure, you've
Yeah.
got your agency manager, and then you've got a number of agents who work under them. It's just like real estate.
Oh, it does sound. Yeah, it sounds a lot like real
Yeah,
estate.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's exactly like real estate. And so, yeah, I had a number of people who worked with me, and oftentimes that would be a big thing too. You always have little issues between coworkers and
Hmm.
things going on.
Do you ever think that resilience also not requires, but it can foster a sense of humor, like not to take things too seriously?
Oh my gosh, it totally fosters a sense of humor.
Yeah.
In fact, I think if you don't have a sense of humor, it's very hard to make it. It's very hard to keep your resilience.
Yeah.
You
I
can't
mean,
if you can't laugh about yourself and the things that are going on in your life. Then what can you laugh about? you know.
well, I think that part of that too is like I think a sense of humor can really be a stress reliever for you, and then maybe that is a factor in
Yeah.
terms of your resilience. I don't know why I call it the term resilience muscle, because I mean it's not so much a trait as it is really kind of a skill almost.
Yeah,
That,
it's a mindset.
yeah.
For sure, it's totally a mindset.
But I think
Um,
if you're, I'm sorry, what?
I don't know what I was going to say right
Oh,
now.
okay, sorry.
But
I have suffer from loquacious interruptus. Anyway, so I was about to say that resilience can give you a greater sense of a greater sense of focus, but maybe more so in terms of energy
mhm.
and the idea that if you are resilient, you're going to get stuff done. I almost swore, but I decided not to because I'm trying to keep it PG-13.
That's good.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, you really have to have that to get stuff done, because if you're down about everything, it makes it very, very difficult to work. The one thing that I was thinking about a minute ago, and I remember
Mm-hmm.
what I was thinking, but
Yeah.
Tony Robbins,
Mm-hmm.
I know you like to bring him up on occasion,
I do occasionally.
and he often says, if you can't change your attitude in a moment,
Yeah.
and it's easy. It's easy to put on a smile. It's easy to laugh about something. It's, I
Well, it's
mean,
easy if you choose to make
if
it
you choose
easy.
to, if you choose to.
Or somebody's having a good time there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so anyway, but I mean, but I do think, when you talk about Tony Robbins, I think in terms of, always thinking about state, like an NLP, that you get yourself into
Exactly.
a certain state.
State
And I think
change.
resilience is a state of mind as
It
opposed
is.
to a trait that you're going to. Although, there is a little bit of optimism, things that you can inherit, I think, in terms of DNA, but it's probably more a product of the behaviors that you model in other people, with those
Mhm.
lovely little model neurons that you have in your head. So.
Mm.
So in terms of resilience, what types of things would you recommend to people in terms of something to do when, I don't know why I keep wanting to swear, but I was going to say when the excrement hits the oscillating blade.
I'm so glad you asked.
Yeah.
I over the years, I've become a big fan of meditation.
Not as
Uh,
opposed to
you know,
medication.
so meditation and mindfulness exercises definitely can help you to get through, a time that's very, very challenging, and get your mind in the right place. The other thing that I think is important, that I don't think that people really think through. We get attached to outcomes. We
Hmm.
think that this particular thing has got to happen, and it's important to kind of have that attitude of surrender. You
Hmm.
know, it doesn't really matter to me if this
Or that
happens.
I've done all that I can do.
I've done what
Yeah,
I can do,
I can't control everything, and I
and I have to
especially
let it
can't
go,
control other people's behaviors.
and I have to let it go.
Yeah.
And if I were to pick one thing, that would be it. I think it's so difficult for people to let things go, and but once you develop that attitude of, hey, you know what, this is something that does not serve me, and I need to just let it be and go on my way.
In the
It's
battles of
hard to do.
entrepreneurship.
Yeah, it's hard to do.
Sometimes you have to retreat in order to advance, and I think that's that's where your self concept and the sense of self worth is like, oh my God, I failed, I am a failure. These types of things that you eventually inculcate into a belief, not going to serve you well, as opposed to you either succeed or you learn. So when you change the word failure to learn, then every experience that we have becomes a learning experience.
It's funny you should say that. And so the other thing that I think is really helpful in this is reframing things.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things that a long time ago, my mother-in-law was very, very ill, and I took care of her for a while. And there were days where things just did not quite go the way that you'd planned,
Mm-hmm.
for one reason or another. And one of the things that I often would ask myself is, you know what? I know there's something that I'm supposed to learn from this. What lesson can I walk away with this? And it was a great reframe for me. So reframing things is a huge technique to get back on track and kind of get that unimportant stuff that doesn't serve you out of the way.
I just realized that something might be wrong with my microphone.
It sounds fine.
It sounds okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it sounds
Okay. It
good.
does say external microphone. Okay.
Yeah.
We've had so many technological things these days that you have to be resilient to weather the storm of various landing page platforms and Facebook pixels and everything else like
And
that. So,
technical stuff is job security for us.
yeah. Well, exactly. Exactly. If it weren't
In
for
a
you,
lot of ways.
you are my help desk. So,
But yet a lot of things go wrong for us too. and
Yeah.
it's all how we handle that when that happens.
Well, and I think that's the thing too, that we've had. You have to have a certain degree of resilience built into your system, or I really do believe you learn it. You learn it
Mm-hmm.
over time, and I think that's the
Mm-hmm.
advantage of live streaming. Because with John and I, we've been live streaming since March of 2020, and we've had so many different so-called failures or learning experiences insofar as having people drop out, my signal dropping out, going to different locations, having unreliable Wi-Fi, being unable to broadcast into a group, finding that you can't see the comments anymore, being distributed to the wrong channels, all these, and it goes on and on and on. And ultimately, it's the persistence, the desire to persist no matter what, I think, builds that resilience model.
Mm.
Like,
No, it does. It totally builds that resilience model, and it's a big thing to focus on. As time goes on, because
well,
those you're going to encounter that over and over again.
yeah, and I give an example like with Facebook ads, because we're playing with Facebook ads right now, which is the first time I've done any in about 3 years. The
Mm.
interface is different, everything's different, so there is a learning curve, at least for yours truly.
Mm.
And just the notion of trying to get a website verified was just so frustrating over the last 10 or so days, and finding out what's wrong, why isn't there pixel firing, what's going on, and it's a question of just the ability to let it go and
Mm.
sleep on it, or think, okay, somebody out there has my back. Some support ticket is not going to be ignored this time. And it's a faith and a confidence and a belief, a little bit of optimism thrown in there, that things are going to work out.
Yeah, it's tough when I'm not going to mention any names of Facebook.
I'm not
You
going
know,
to mention any names.
but
Yeah,
but when you're trying to get help with something and there is no method to get help,
right.
that makes things very tough, and that can be something that you have to be more resilient about. You have to start to look at or be creative about. Okay, I know I'm not going to get help from probably the best source that I could get help
Or
from.
you did
So
something too, which is you
yeah,
found out something. Hey, I know a guy.
I know
And
that
sure enough, that guy
worked.
uh, worked. He managed to fix things very quickly, as a matter of fact, too,
Yeah, we
because he
fixed
was
it in a
more
couple of minutes.
experienced. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah. So, I mean,
and
there's always other ways around things. So sometimes the shortest distance to a is not always a straight line.
it could be a
You
phone
know,
call,
it could be yeah, or might be a little trip around the corner
a trip
to
around the
find
corner. What, to the
to
corner bar?
someplace faster. And I always love that map they used to show of an entrepreneur's journey.
Yeah,
Everybody thinks it's just that straight line going from left to right from this point,
yeah,
from
from
point
point
A
A
to
to
point
point
B.
Z. In fact,
But in reality, it looks more like this. And we went through a pond and through a
hmm
crater and
hmm
through, so
I
you
went
gotta.
through a pothole the size of a coffin to get here.
Oh boy. Well, I do live near Massachusetts, and there are potholes the size
Well,
of
no,
craters.
that reference actually comes from a trip that I made many years ago to Costa Rica, where I was driving a tiny
Mm,
Suzuki SUV through potholes that were about the size of coffins.
Dolphins.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. While
It's
avoiding,
true.
while approaching a bridge that had alligators below.
Yep.
So
It can definitely be a thing.
it is a thing. Um, but resilience. I had a fleeting thought here. Something about resilience.
Mm,
You mentioned something about resisting things and letting things go. So I think
yeah,
resilience requires to let go of resistance to a certain
it
extent and
does.
allow things to come to you and
Totally
opportunities to
does.
open up, because it's the old, there's some of the hackneyed stories and phrases, and old stories about, when one door closes a window will open, or when a window closes a door will open. But it's actually true in terms of there are alternatives to what you are currently doing.
Yeah. Well, resistance and drama triangles and all this
Yeah,
stuff, it's not stuff that serves us. So we have to just kind of let go of that. I mean, it's easy to get caught up in somebody's drama triangle.
yeah.
You got two or three people, stuff going on. Next thing you know, you're involved in it,
Hmm.
and you don't. But you don't have to be. You don't have to be involved in it. You can choose not to.
Yeah,
So
is this
it's a
providing me with a is it provide helping me to go along my path of productivity, prosperity, and profits, or is it dragging me down to the lowest common denominator so that it's like my dad used to talk about the
mm,
folks in the old folks home. They used to say they always had concerts. I say, what do you mean concerts? He said, oh yeah, they had organ recitals. It's like, oh my heart, oh my liver, oh my stomach. That was their organ recital. And so
yeah,
and you
is that
can't
right? Yeah.
and you can go down and there's a difference between sympathy and empathy. And I think that if you're going to just amplify the negativity, it's not going to serve you well in your own
No.
relationships, and it's not going to serve you well in business.
And as my friend Ken Stone would say, it's not going to allow you to sit into who you really are.
I'm trying to sit into who I really am.
You know, settle into who you really are.
Settle, sit in, but not having a sit in like the 60s and 70s.
Not quite like that, no.
Okay, that's good. That's always good. It's always good. Hey, we've already made it to the half hour that we had
Yeah,
planned, which is
how
pretty
about that?
amazing. And there was
Yeah,
very little dead air time. I'm learning from Colleen O'Brien,
very little, and it was a great
not to have dead
conversation.
air time.
And I think this is one of those conversations that we don't have enough. We don't have
No,
enough conversations about the mindset we need to have to be resilient and not be affected by small things or drama or whatever it might be, and keep level because
level, keep
yeah,
steady.
yeah, keep
Stay
steady,
steady in the boat. Well, you
keep
can
steady.
rock the boat if it's your own boat or
Although
somebody else's.
although I do realize that this is a particular talent or uh,
It's a state.
superpower that I have.
Yeah, but it's a state of mind. It's a state of mind. It's a
That's a
state of
state of
being.
mind, of
It's a
course.
state of being. It's who you are. I am a
It is.
resilient person. Things
It
that
is.
come to me, I'm able to handle. I adapt well to change. Things like that. They are affirmations, but they're
Yeah,
also statements of being and how you refer to yourself when you're speaking to other folks, even your clients and business partners and
absolutely.
others. So
And you know too from listening to people talk to me over the years that the number of people that will often say, I really appreciate sitting down with you because it's like I find you so soothing.
John Paduchak, like the human Sominex.
I kind of, yeah.
Now you're
Yeah.
more like a
I
human
don't
melatonin.
complimenting it though.
Maybe more like a melatonin. You don't put me to sleep.
Maybe, but it's a different comment to get from people.
Yeah.
So it's something I think people should kind of strive towards.
Hmm.
Be the calm instead of the storm. You know,
I'm a little windy though.
yeah. Well,
Long wind. We said not too long ago in our community there were no short-winded people in that
at least
group.
you're not at least you're not gassy. So
Nope, not today. Oh, and on that, as I made
I don't
the
know, right?
reference earlier to the excrement hitting the oscillating blades, on
Yeah.
that positive note, I think we may revisit this topic of resilience and mindset maybe a little more often because the entrepreneurial journey is
Yeah.
never really super easy, and it may take you 11, 16, 20, 30 years to become an overnight success.
Well, and we're all going through a lot right now.
Yeah.
So all the
So
people around us, and I don't know about you, but whenever I go out now, I find that people are very uptight, very edgy, very distracted. It's a really interest. I hate to use interesting. I use that word too much.
compound interest.
No, but it's
It's fascinating, Captain.
it's a fascinating time to be alive because it's just there's a
Hey,
lot of
people watching, still one of my favorite activities anytime I'm standing in line anywhere. There's so much you can learn by
oh
observation.
my gosh, so much you can learn.
Yeah. So we'll be learning a lot more. We're going to help you to learn so that you can better earn. And when we talk about do it now, we really want you to take action now. We do recognize that most of you are watching in replay land, or replay city, as I've known to call it. So please use the hashtag replay when you are watching. And thank you for all of you who have done that. Please put your little comments in there. Well, not little, because we know you have important
No,
comments.
because we like that.
If you have questions, we will be in the live stream later to answer. I mean, it will be the dead stream once we finish, because it's no longer a live stream. And if you have any suggestions for topics you want us to tackle, or block and we won't block them, but we will tackle them. Just drop them also underneath here in any of the 10 different locations where we are currently streaming.
And if you have questions about this particular subject that maybe we didn't get a chance to cover.
Yeah, if you have an idea, what do you think resilience is, and have any examples of how you overcame certain obstacles in a resilient manner? Yes, please do. So, and for those of you who are in our various groups, we will be seeing you next week, as well as in some other live streams that we do. And be back here, same bat time, same bat channel. If it's 2 o'clock Pacific, 5 p.m. on the East Coast, it is time for the Do It Now show. So we will see you then. Have a wonderful weekend. Have a recharging time. And next time it'll be on our dial.